I now understood something I had never known before, and that was our brain works on predictions, and it's predicting everything we experience. We think we see with our eyes, we don't. We see with our brain because our brain tells us what we see. It interprets those signals of light. It interprets what we hear. All of these things are products of the brain, and so are our emotions.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Neff Inspiration, a show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Whilst I've got you fresh in this interview, please press the like and the subscribe button down there so that you can get notified when we bring more of these wonderful interviews out. I've got the honor and privilege of interviewing 2 guests each week, and each of them make my heart beat faster because I'm learning so much. I'm forever curious, and this beautiful exposure to these wonderful people who want, like me, to change the world is just intoxicating. So press the like and subscribe button and tell your friends. But now to our interview today. I've got Kim Korte with me, and I was looking forward to this interview for quite some time. She is a woman who is trying to understand those feelings and emotions. And it's so difficult because many of us, we are so afraid of these emotions. We are so keen to run away from them, to do anything to not feel those emotions, especially the negative ones. Yet, as in a wonderful dish, you will have sweet and sour. You will have umami, you will have other flavors. They're coming together. When you stack these flavors and bring them together, then this dish becomes amazing. And maybe is it not the same when we are talking about our emotions? Would it not be nice to actually understand them in a better way? And today I've got Kim Korte with me, and he was trying to help us to get through this chaos of emotions. So Kim, welcome to my show.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness. How did it come about that you became quite an expert in understanding your emotions? Unfortunately, there's always a bit of a backstory, and that is often not so nice. Are you happy to share a little bit about that?
I am happy to share any and all of it. I'm an open book, so you can ask me anything. I like most people in life have had several. I live in California, and so I call them, life quakes, where you feel the ground beneath you rumble emotionally, because life does that sometimes. And I had a few traumatic things happen in my life when I was young, things that shouldn't have happened to a young girl by people. I was raised with an alcoholic mother. She was one of the great loves of my life, but it definitely had an impact on me. And the big thing that happened, one of the other big things that happened was, I think the straw that broke the camel's back was a very painful divorce. My husband of 9 years that I thought was the love of my life, he cheated on me, and I lost everything. I lost 2 businesses. I lost, my life. I was so close to his family. I took his mom in as my mom after I'd lost her at age 30. So then I wondered, what am I going to do? And this is a true story. I literally laid on the floor of my condo's living room in San Diego because I was cleaning it out, moving to San Francisco, and getting it ready for renters. And I don't know how long I laid there. I know it was light when I went down and dark when I got up. So it was a long time. And, just thinking about everything and how do I keep this from happening to me again? And I couldn't. And that started me on this trek, this journey to understand how this happened and to try and understand me better and my feelings better, because I felt like my emotions were running me. I wasn't running my emotions. And it had been many years that this had been taking place. And so It started with trying to manage my thoughts and my focus. I wrote a book called The Perfect Heart, Creating and Maintaining Love-Life Balance, using a heart-shaped Venn diagram to help you think about creating balance in your relationships, because where was my marriage? It was way out of balance.
Mm.
And then that wasn't quite it. Managing thoughts wasn't enough. It wasn't really hitting the spot, so to speak. And then I read a book called How Emotions Are Made, The Secret Life of the Brain. And it was like, boom, the lights went on rather, and there were fireworks. I now understood something I had never known before. And that was our brain works on predictions, and it's predicting everything we experience. We think we see with our eyes, we don't. We see with our brain, because our brain tells us what we see. It interprets those signals of light. It interprets what we hear. All of these things are products of the brain, and so are our emotions. And the ingredients of those emotions are the product of everything we see, all of these perceptions that we have. And then we also have one more perceptive system that we might not be aware of, and that's the feeling of how or the system that tells us how we feel inside of our bodies. It's called interoception. And so these all make the ingredients for what we experience as emotions.
Wow. And I love it the way how you described this fact, because when you look at how the eye works in a biological fashion, then basically it's on-off signals that are sent by little receptors. And there are millions of them in your eyes. And all that is a mumble of information that gets sent to the brain. And then the brain makes the picture and immediately associates a rating system, a scale to it. Is this dangerous to start off with? We're always looking for danger, because otherwise we would see that beautiful little kitten that's actually a tiger who is about to devour us. So we already do a lot of thinking without even knowing it. And that's the crazy thing. So thank you for pointing that out in such elegant way. But it's one thing to realize that. Where do you go with that?
In my prior thinking, that just working on my thoughts was the way to go. And I've heard another neuroscientist, not another, because I'm not one, but I've been reading all these and listening to all these neuroscientists. And she said that thoughts are really just a bunch of memories that we pull together and use to create a thought. And I thought, well, what are our memories? A memory is a group of circumstances. It's all the things we see, we hear, we feel, or we are experiencing, even how we feel inside of our bodies, and the emotion. When I say emotion, how we felt about that experience, and that's what's in a memory. So when you think about it, our perceptions are driving our thoughts and the formulation of our future thoughts, our future behaviors, our future reactions. Mm-hmm. And so why not focus more on managing how you perceive things instead of how you think? Mm-hmm. Instead of focusing on, am I capturing the full picture? What is going on here? What am I missing? And so I became more perception focused than thought focused, because it's really the ingredients that we use to create the future memories that are going to create the future thoughts.
And when it comes to perception, then of course also you are a bit more in control of what you're watching and what emphasis you put on it. And you ask yourself different questions with regards to all the pictures that are sent to your brain. It's wonderful to hear how you have transformed in your mind, but that takes practice, doesn't it? I mean, this is just not one switch that you can sort of flip and suddenly the world looks much nicer. Many of us don't really know our feelings. we are so used to running away from our feelings that it is not normal for us to sit for a moment and to be introspective, to be actually present and allowing those emotions to occur and being able to name them, because only then can you tame them. So there is certainly that point. If you talk about perceptions and the concepts that you've brought up, however, did you start feeling? Was there a process that you worked on for yourself?
Yes, absolutely. This allows me to introduce this topic of how we feel inside of our bodies, this system called interoception. This is how we catch our feelings. If you ever type in interoception, it will autocorrect to interception. And this is a good way to remember it's how we catch our feelings inside of our body, our interior. And this system is the same system we use to feel hunger, to feel thirst, to feel like our heart's beating too fast. Otherwise, we don't feel what's going on. It's only when the brain wants to tell us. So it tells us these homeostatic, or these emotions that keep us alive, but it also tells us about the effective ones, the ones that are like love or anger or anxiety or fear. And when we have been in a habit, which, having been raised with my mom, and I know, and well, my dad would tell you he's the same way, push feelings down. And it's what we've either done. We've either pushed them down or run away. And I was doing that. And so this process in this book that I've created tells you slowly how to get used to feeling those feels, and to just noticing sensations inside of your body. Because if you can connect to the difference in the flavors that you're tasting, think about tubs of vanilla ice cream. You could take 3 different tubs of ice cream and have 3 different tastes, and yet they're all vanilla ice cream. One could be more rich. One could be, like a lot of real good cream. One might have more sugar. Another one might have a lot more vanilla. And that ability to distinguish those tastes are good practice for distinguishing the feelings inside of your body. Because inside of your body, you might have varying degrees of anxiety or fear or love. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, love is grand. True, if it's healthy. But we might skip over having a crush or not notice the difference of the feeling of being Twitter-pated, seeing someone. Instead, you just go right to, I'm in love, and don't recognize the fact that it might be just lust. And right? So being able to distinguish those feelings and connect to them is the goal of this book, because all too many of us have been disconnected and have had to push them down into to not feel them out of fear. And the fear is the killer. And what I mean by that, it kills your emotions. You can't feel anything else when you're feeling fear. You can only feel one emotion at a time. And if you're in fear, you're going to be focused on what that fear is, whether it's real or imagined. And that's the thing. Fear can be real or imagined. It even says it in the dictionary. So just being able to go from fear to being just a little bit more cautious, and then work your way up to curiosity, and taking that path with your emotions can help you to go from experiencing food as good or great to, I can tell you the different aspects of this emotion and why I'm feeling it, and be able to discuss it in detail. And that's what makes the difference in emotion regulation, because you can recognize it that much more quickly.
Yeah.
And you can pivot from it that much more quickly, because you can go, oh, or it allows you that space to examine it later, because you're not afraid. You can look at it and say, was that really what was going on? Did I miss something? Were there ingredients that I was missing? Because face it, you're only able to capture so much of the world in one given time. And if we're understanding that we don't capture it all, that our feelings are a prediction of the brain, and we haven't gotten into this too much, but our brain is using our past, all of these memories and experiences to predict how we feel, just like it predicts how we see.
I love it how you stated that you really can mix and mingle emotions, that there's always one predominant one there, and that is riding your life at that moment in time. And if that is fear,
Yep.
then you're actually depriving yourself from the privilege of feeling all those other emotions. I think that's so important because so many of us are living under constant pressure, the imposter syndrome, of creating fear within you. What will they think of me? What will they say? And the core beliefs of you're not enough. Who are you to go out there and write a book, to go out there onto a show in your case? Who are you as a failure, as a woman? You couldn't even hold a husband. Are these voices going through your head?
On occasion, because I think everyone has them on occasion, but then I speak them out loud, and my friends are like, you know, I because talking about emotions and not being in the field of neuroscience or all these other people who go to school, but I bring a different aspect to it, right? These are lived experiences. I am applying the things that I have learned in a very unique way because I'm incorporating consciousness
Yeah.
and neuroscience, all these different things that play into our emotional state. And so when you're able to talk yourself like this and change that recipe for what it means to be okay to talk about
Mm.
emotions when you're not a psychologist, a medical doctor, a neuroscientist, and it still is scientifically valid. My whole book has a bunch of references because it's constantly referenced, because I want people to know I am not making this up. There's a lot of smart people who did. What's different is how I've put it together. So I have taken all of these ingredients and made my own dish
Which is
in a
perfect.
book.
Well, exactly right. But I think it is so important that we understand that all these things are interlinked. You can't just think, oh, I want love. And why can't I have love? And the moment you say, why can't I have love? Well, your brain comes up with at least 20 different reasons why you can't have love. So there's the problem, the underlying problem of which questions do you ask yourself? So which
Yes.
questions could we rephrase in a way that we are better in living in the moment and feeling our emotion, warts and all, and being able to allow them, nurture yourself for having them, and then being able to move on quicker rather than feeling the sadness and staying there, remaining in the pity party.
There's a few ways, but one of my favorite ways is to ask yourself. There's a whole exercise in the book about what has to happen for you to feel sad. Like, what is going on in this moment
Mm.
that is making you feel sad, like very specifically. And then what else has to happen for you to feel sad, or whatever the emotion is. Because more often than not, it has a lot less to do with what's going on, and we all know this. It's maybe one small aspect of the whole situation, one of the ingredients that overwhelmed you to go to that one emotion. And
Mm.
that's because you don't have enough recipes for all of the other emotions that you want to feel more of.
Mm.
So if everything told you happy and there was one small ingredient that was sad, and you just go right to sad because you don't have enough granularity, you don't have enough of the perspective to look beyond that one thing that was making you sad. And this is where, when I talk about making recipes or creating the emotional existence that you want to have, that it's being able to look at those ingredients. And then the other thing that I have found super helpful is that free flow writing. You go into a place where it's just you and a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, and you write, and you just write. You don't correct your grammar, you don't correct anything. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. Hopefully it doesn't, because that's where the gold is. And then you just write. And if you can't write anymore, just wait a second. Don't let that pen leave the paper. If you have to, doodle, and then all of a sudden it'll just come back out again. And you'll know when you're done. If you think you're not done, that means you're not done. So that has helped me many a time. During COVID, I was really, really sad because I had a consulting business. It was highly impacted. I knew my income was going to go down to zero with COVID. So I took a leased car back, and I was feeling like a huge failure. And failure is not even a good word for it. It was so personalized, this car, this vehicle. And so I wrote, and I can't even tell you what it was I associated it to now, but at the end of the time that I had written my epistle, 5 pages that came out of nowhere, it had nothing to do with the car, and it had everything to do with everything else. And I ripped up the pages, and I haven't thought about it since. So it got out.
Beautiful. And often you don't know what you don't know. And you have used a technique, this free writing, this crazy writing, that is so powerful. When I wrote My Steps to Sobriety, when I wrote the first edition, I had one day a writer's block. And I didn't know what to write. Nothing came out. And I forced myself to do exactly the same thing as you just said. And after writing a few sentences, suddenly I had this out-of-body experience where I actually was looking over my fingers whilst they were writing. And I thought, what are you writing there? And what came out was completely mind-blowing. I had no idea where that was coming from, but it was some very profound and deep stuff that obviously needed to come out so that I was able to deal with it. So powerful, so spooky at times. So guys, if you try that at home, this is something, do try that at home and be prepared to have magic occurring in front of you. It can be painful because there might also be things coming out that you had no idea that they were still actually riding you like a monkey on your back. It is, but that is what growth is all about. The moment we get in touch with our emotions, we allow them to be there. That is where we can explore them, accept them, like the waves of the ocean. If you're in the ocean and there's a huge wave coming towards you, well, you can be very angry about that wave and say, you wave, go away, you wave. I hate you. I don't want you here. Well, the wave doesn't care. It comes. So you can either learn to surf, you can learn to dive underneath it, you can allow it to tumble you around and you feel the energy of the wave, of the ocean. All these things are possible, but the wave doesn't care, the wave comes. So some emotions are exactly like that. And I would say the vast majority of them. Next time, maybe try not to use something to distract you, but actually stop and feel and see how long you can stay with that feeling. Because sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes within seconds you feel it and you want to run. What do you advise your clients how to start feeling those emotions when they come and they know and everyone knows, okay, this is not a nice emotion? How do you prevent yourself from running away?
Well, I, we have a tendency to predict the outcome of feeling a feeling, right?
Mm,
This is what we do. We're always trying to figure out like what's next, and we set up these fears like, if I feel this, I'm going to have this existence, or
mm,
something bad's going to happen, not allowing for it to come out and just see, like to be curious to see, well, if I let this out, I know that
mm,
it's better for me, because
mm,
it's just like being hungry. It just gets louder and louder and louder and stronger and stronger and stronger. So
mm,
it's going to come out some way, and it might not be pretty. So why not do it while it's just a grumble? And when you let it out, don't be afraid of the outcome. Don't even
mm,
think about the outcome, because our fears, more than often than not, in fact, they've said track your anxieties 97% of the time or 93% of the time. They never happen, they never come true. So if you can remember that,
mm,
then that makes that process a little bit easier. And if
mm,
you get used to tracking your anxieties and seeing that they don't
mm,
come true, then you have trust that more likely than not, whatever you're thinking is not going to happen. And then just starting out with the little things. It really depends on where you're at with your comfort with feeling feelings. If you are someone who doesn't experience illness, doesn't notice that they're ill till very late in the game, if you're the type who doesn't even notice that you're hungry or you're sick
mm,
because you're not listening to the signals, then that's a sign that you're very disassociated
mm,
from your interoceptive signals. That's when I start with the small things like taking taking those tastes, like I said, noticing the difference, um, taking a bite of food and going through like, what are the textures? How did the fork
mm,
feel on my tongue?
mm,
Um, what was the smell that I encountered? How does it smell? What does it look like? And kind of go through all the sensory inputs and connect to it, and you'll start to feel it, something in your body. Taste something hot. Notice it. Does it feel like how you feel when you're angry? And then have something that's a little bit less hot and say, oh, this feels like when you're irritated. And when you start to associate flavors with emotional states, then you'll get a little bit more comfortable. And really what you're doing is kind of practicing feeling feelings, and
oh,
then say, "Oh, I'm I'm feeling like a habanero pepper right now," when really, you might have been a bell pepper. But it's that predictive nature of seeing something, thinking it's going to be a certain way, and then tasting it, you'll have what you expect. But if you don't have the expectation, you're going to get a little bit more reality.
it's beautiful. The little baby steps and a little, tiny little bit of exposure to something and actually feel the true feeling, not what you fear is happening or what you dread is happening or what you think is happening. I love it.
What you
And
expect. And I really want to state that, is because in my book I talk about, expectations and outcome. And if we expect something to taste a certain way, it's going to taste that way more likely than not, unless it's completely divergent. But I know too many people who've had wine and said, "Oh, this is fabulous," and then they find out that it's a cheap wine, and they're like, "Wait," and the wine doesn't change, but their expectation was the first experience, and then when they tasted it again, it was the actual experience. If that makes any sense.
100%, 100%. And then if those of you who are curious, check out Heston Blumenthal. He is a molecular chef. And he has a lot of experiments out there where he does take audience through a taste experience, so to speak. And they are convinced they have got the most beautiful red wine, full of this and full of that. And then when the lights come on, it turns out, first of all, it was white wine. Second, it was completely different than the way it was all put together. So there is so much more to a taste sensation than what we think it is. And you said it so beautifully. We often are fools with our own emotions, but only because we don't take time to get to know them. And I've been recently on this journey of a lot of new trauma, and unfortunately, I got to know the feeling of fear very, very well. And I am now, however, on coming towards the other side of that experience, and the fear is no longer as dramatic and as disruptive. It's actually I've gotten to know the sensation. I've gotten to know my response to it. I've also found out that I can tolerate this fear, that I now know it, and that therefore it is no longer as scary for me. So should this fear come again, and it will, no two ways around it, then I'm much more able to say, oh, hello, old friend. Good to see you. But maybe not now. I really want to focus on getting something done, on being creative, on being positive, etc. Would that be okay? And by you just accepting that emotion, you have tamed it to a great degree. There'll still be rumbling a little bit. Oh, okay. Can I hang around a little bit? Yeah, okay, that's fine. Just over there, please. Wouldn't that be nice if you can deal with your emotions like that, get to know them, and therefore maybe get to know yourself in a better way? Maybe then also recognize it in others.
Yes, and isn't that what we're here for? Is our experience of life? And what we don't understand is that our experience, who we are, our emotional makeup, our thoughts are so unique just to us. We are each snowflakes because they're each a unique thumbprint or fingerprint. We each experience the world differently. And the world is projected from our brain. So it's the culmination of every second of our life. And when we know ourselves, like you just said, when you have this friendlier relationship with your emotions and you recognize them, and it's like, okay, you could be here, fear, you could be wrong and you could be right. Let's talk about it. And when you have that close of a relationship, you start to learn yourself. And it's the people who know what they want, what they don't want, what they desire. That means that they can find joy. That means that they can recognize false fear. And it means that they know who they are. And those are the people who have self-confidence. Those are the people who don't need external validation to be what someone else wants us to be, because we're happy with who we are, because we're us. That 1 in a million Neff, that 1 in a million Kim, or billions Kim and Neff. But that to me is the journey. And this is what gives us the ability to taste life at its fullest. It's the difference between having meat and potatoes every night and having a smorgasbord, this gigantic, bountiful table filled with food of all sorts, all levels of sensory input, the spicy, the sour, the sweet, the best table in the world is there for us if we are willing to taste it.
That's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. Your book is for sure amazing. Come on, show us your book, and so that people can also have a bit of a glance there. Yay, Yucky Yummy Savory Sweet. Uh, and that's pretty much a beautiful, beautiful combination. Thank you so much.
Thank
Kim,
you.
you're an
I
amazing.
wanted the words to look like and associate to an emotion.
That's true. Oh, it's beautiful. Hey, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. You're an amazing woman. You have done some beautiful work of
Thank you.
interception, of introspection, and you came out as a new and improved human. And I think that is the best that we can hope for, and that is really what we should strive for, because trauma is inevitable, challenges are constantly there, and ultimately we have got the privilege to wake up in the morning, and often enough we forget that this is a privilege, that every second that we have got the right to make choices, we have got the opportunity to live our life to the fullest. And it's only when we get closer to our emotions and our feelings and allow them to shine and explore where they're coming from, and explore if they're really true, or if there is actually, if that feeling that you're feeling is actually completely misplaced, and you think, well, where are you coming from? It's only then that we can actually live our life to the fullest, and that is with intention every moment in the time. I love it. Kim, if people want to find you, if they want to get in touch with you, where can they do that?
KimKorte.com is
Mhm.
pretty easy. And the book is available on Amazon.
Wonderful. Guys, look down there in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast. And don't forget to press the like and subscribe button and tell your friends. Let's all work together to make this world a better place. One action, one impact, one emotion at a time. Kim, thank you so much again. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with intention. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.